Welcome to the STEM Seekers Podcast, the podcast that equips you to help kids seek God through science, technology, engineering, and math. This is our first podcast that we've ever done. So
very exciting.
Very exciting. We're going to see how this goes. We've never done this before.
So
brand new
lots
experience
of
here. Yes, absolutely. My name is David, and I'm here with my coworkers, Jeff, and say hi, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
There you go. And over there we have got Jeanette, and
hi.
There you go, fantastic. And what is our goal for this podcast?
I get the impression we'd really like to help people understand a little bit more about STEM, encourage them, those who are running STEM clubs with our organization, and those who are interested in STEM just in general too might learn some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. All right. So whether you're involved in STEM programs or not, hopefully there's something here that should be useful for you. Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right. So our first segment is we have our STEM bucket, which is our resources that we hope to be able to share with different people running STEM ministries. And so first up, we've got Jeanette. What have you got for us?
Well, I would like to talk a little bit about our big idea books. In our STEM program, we have books for each of the children. We commonly refer to them as bibs.
Yes.
So if you hear us say
That
bibs,
is so cool.
It makes it sound so hip. Honestly, it's bibs.
yeah. So that's what we're talking about is the bibs. So our big idea books, you'll find through them, as you're going through them, there's a spot for the kids in the back. It's called the tech tree. The kids can earn badges for doing different things, and that's where they keep track of them. And as they get a certain amount, they can get STEM
badges and power cells.
Power cells. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
And then they can work their way up to a new piece of equipment eventually. Mm-hmm. So I think that's all pretty cool. But what are there any other purposes for the bibs? Mm-hmm. I think there are. David, can you tell us a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I love big idea books for the discipleship potential that is there with them. Each one of them has a devotional for the kids to be able to go through and to be able to do that at home. But we also find this, who knows, we might talk about this in another segment, but one of the things that I like to do in my club, my wife likes to do, is if kids are looking to get their researcher badge, which is for doing their devos, is don't wait until the kids go home. Just do it there with them. Because we find a lot of kids are like, wow, I like to do it, but I just don't know how to read. And you actually have a really cool discipleship moment right there where you actually get to dive into get into God's Word and some really good growth concepts for them. And not only are you helping them with their growth, but you're also helping them progress through STEM Club by helping them earn those badges, and you help build that relationship with them as well.
Do you find with that a lot of your kids do take the books home anyway and bring them back?
Absolutely. You know what? That's probably one of my biggest surprises with STEM Club is how much the kids bring them back and that they don't forget them. And I think the number one reason is because of the tech tree in the back of there. They know that if they don't bring their book back, they can't get the badges, they can't progress, they can't work together as a group to unlock those new pieces of STEM equipment. Mm-hmm. And so that really makes a huge difference with getting them to remember to bring their big idea books back week to week.
Do you have any cool stories of any of the kids that have gone through their books and come and told you something they've learned or been excited about or that kind of thing? Or are they just excited about the tech tree, just getting those power cells?
They really do get excited about the tech tree. But there's nothing coming off the top of my head. But this probably sets us up for later that we want to be able to talk with different STEM leaders, whether it's STEM Club or STEMcation, and find out, hey, how have the kids been using their big idea books and those discipleship tools? And we would love to be able to hear stories from those different leaders. Yeah.
the one thing that I thought of when you said that is I think it's pretty cool that if you go over the devotions with the child there at club and they take it home, I'm the type who I can talk about something, but then I want to reread it when I get home to understand it more. Or if a question pops into my head, I want to be able to go back to it. And by the kids taking it home, they may not have read it alone, but they can go back and reread it or comprehend it or whatever at a later date, not just right at club. I love that idea.
Right. Yeah.
I was also thinking too on the books that coming from maybe children who've come to the STEM club who don't have a Christian background or don't have a church background, it's from our perspective, it's really cool if they can take those home and they can talk about it with their parents too, and it may also be an encouragement for some to think more about God and STEM and that He's a creator of the world and things like that too, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next up, I love STEM resources. I'm just putting it out there. So like, I love just checking into new creators and different things. And so we want to bring in some of those things as we go along with this podcast. And one right off the hop that I wanted to share about is very commonly used. A lot of you have seen his YouTube channel where he does the glitter bomb for the Porch Pirates, right? It's just right.
Oh yeah.
But Mark Rober. So if you haven't checked out Mark Rober's YouTube channel, check it out. He takes engineering and science and makes it cool. You know, he just makes it really practical and really easy for anybody to digest. He's a former NASA engineer, and he just comes up with these crazy ideas. And I don't know, it just seems like whatever idea he gets in his brain, he's like, oh, I can build that, and I'll make this really cool video about it. And I found, especially like for my kids, it inspires them to dream and to think about, oh, if Mark Rober can do that, maybe I could do that. And he's a big promoter of the idea of thinking like an engineer, that looking at the world and seeing what are the problems and can we discover some different solutions. So I don't know if have you guys checked out Mark Rober's?
Yeah, I was just wondering where you're going with that, David. We're going to teach the kids to go through and build something to stop these people, Amazon porch pirates kind of thing.
Right? Who knows, right? Who knows? It's a thing.
But it is kind of funny because it just, in his videos, you just don't expect it.
Right.
And, but yeah. And I think from what I heard, it's helped lower a lot of the
it has helped lower the crime.
People stealing stuff, so, because they don't want those things going off in their house or car or whatever. Well, that's great. Yeah.
So Jeanette, have you checked out Mark Rober before?
I can't. I've watched the glitter one.
Oh, okay.
I haven't done any more.
Right.
Just the glitter one.
So how you should do before our next podcast is you should check out another Mark Rober video, and because you aren't somebody that's like, oh, I'm going to go and check out these cool new STEM resources, and so you could be like that person.
Does he do other videos other than the Amazon Porch Pirate ones?
Oh yeah. He does tons.
So I guess we have homework.
Yeah, we have some homework. So those are the only ones that I knew of.
And just like
learn
check it
something
out
new today.
And you guys can do your own review. And who knows? You know what you should do is I will give a new recommendation for a STEM resource, and you guys have a homework. You guys have a homework assignment to go and check it out and give a review on it.
I feel like we're already, like every day I learn something new, and this podcast is going to be one of those times.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
There you go.
You know what new thing I learned tonight?
What did you learn?
I didn't realize that there were jokes about STEM.
Oh.
But apparently, there are.
Yes, there are. Yeah. So what jokes do we have about STEM?
Well, I've got one for you. What do you call a snake that is 3.14 meters long?
I don't know.
A python! And that goes really well with our STEM stories because I think there's one thing in the Bible about STEM, about the is it harem, in Hiram. I can't
Hiram.
remember. I never pronounce his name right.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, who discovered pi, really.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to bring that out in a future STEM
we got all
episode.
kinds of stuff coming.
Yeah, for sure. All right, very cool. Well, that was a real blast. And speaking of blast, we are rocking this podcast thing.
Alrighty,
We've got
there you
transitions
go.
down. It's
Look at
amazing.
That. You're getting more than you're given.
There you go.
I can give you another joke if you want.
Okay, give us one more joke.
Okay. What is the least interesting element in the periodic table?
I don't know.
Borium.
Oh.
You should have seen his face on that one.
I think it's a rule that all STEM jokes have to be like incredibly cringeworthy. I think it's just that is absolutely cringeworthy.
I wonder how many people have just turned off the podcast.
All right, we're done with you for sure. But we also thought we might highlight some STEM discoveries as well, because the world of STEM is amazing. There's always new discoveries that are happening. And cool one that just happened is in December, there was a big breakthrough in nuclear fusion. And this means a lot to me because my dad, he actually just retired. He worked at a nuclear power plant.
Did he?
Yeah.
I see my dad worked in the nuclear industry too.
No way.
For years, yeah.
Where was he?
He worked at the chemical refinery in Port Hope, Ontario.
Oh, okay.
For Cameco. So he was there for many years. They refined uranium.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, my dad was a control tech at the Pickering nuclear
so
plant.
cool.
There you go. But there, it's fission, and so the basic concept of that, very basic, is that you take large atoms and you blast them apart, and that reaction that happens when you break these atoms apart creates a tremendous amount of energy, but unfortunately it ends up leaving a whole bunch of nuclear waste that we really don't have any real good solutions of how to store it, or what happens if there's a problem at the plant and there's a leak that happens and nuclear radiation gets out, which never a good time.
Which is a story of my hometown, because they had to dump it, and they found that years ago they were just dumping it as clean fill before they really knew that it was actual radioactive waste. And so there's spots all over town where they've had to dig it up now, and they've now got a plan for storage.
Right.
It's taken years and years and years.
Exactly.
So that's great.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
Right. So breakthrough in nuclear fusion. So instead of breaking these things apart, you're pushing them together. You're pushing atoms together, and what's really cool about fusion is that it's basically continually renewable. We're not always looking for new fuel, because you basically make it out of hydrogen, which is the most readily available stuff out there, whatever it's called. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to try not to bore all of you with this. Anyway. But so you're forcing these things together, and basically what's happening is you are creating a reaction that is the same thing that's happening on the sun. That's what stars are. They're nuclear fusion reactions that are happening. And as you might imagine, it's really hard to contain the sun here on Earth. And so what was really cool about this is that over the past 70 years, they've been trying to create this fusion reaction, but it always takes more energy putting into it than what they get out of it. And they just had the first successful reaction where they put 2 units of energy into it and they got 3 units back out again. And I know you guys are looking at me and saying, "Whoa, that's absolutely amazing!" Yeah. But it's so
that's
cool.
So awesome.
It really is. Like, it's so cool, because like we are always looking for that. Hey, what's
because it's usually the constant, right? Like you look at hydro energy, hydroelectric. It's taking the power of the water and producing, but it's not necessarily an equal you know, the,
Right. There's always energy loss.
Yeah,
right?
there's always a kind of an energy loss there in some way. So whereas this is, you're saying it's they put 2 parts in, they're getting 3 parts back. There's an energy gain with all the work that's gone into it.
Exactly.
So that's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. So, anyways,
If
super
you're into
cool.
science, that's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. I read that and I was like, wow, this is actually happening. Anyways, so who knows? We might actually see the first nuclear, fully functioning reactor in our lifetimes, which is really cool.
Like nuclear fusion reactor,
Fusion.
is that what they call it?
Yeah, it would be nuclear fusion
Right.
as opposed to fission that's being used right now. Or as Jeanette and I discovered as we were driving today, that fission is also a shipping company in Ontario as well.
Okay, cool. So if you
David-
can't get it in one place, you can get it delivered
There you
another way,
go.
right?
Right? Yeah.
When David first asked me, have I ever heard of fusion? I thought he meant the car. You never
Ford
told
Fusion,
me.
there
I
you
did.
go.
I was like,
Yeah.
yes. And then he went on and, I learned.
Yeah, this
something.
is not an endorsement.
And
This is
on
not-
and
Ford
on and on.
David, it's fun listening to you because you get so excited about it. So it's all cool. It's all cool.
All right. Well, that's our first podcast. We don't have an official sponsor for this podcast because we're just getting started. And hey, if anybody like Apple wants to sponsor us, and that would be great, we'll read your ads. But other than that, our unofficial sponsor is Child Evangelism Fellowship Ontario, which is who we work for, who's developed the STEM ministries that are now being made available to churches. So thanks so much to CEFontario. And if you are a church that's looking to reach kids in your community, check out our STEM ministries, and you can find us at
CEFontario.org.
Fantastic.
And just on that too, because we should have mentioned it right at the beginning, our heart is to see kids reached with the gospel.
Yeah.
And STEM is one of those amazing ways to do that. So
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. We'll
Drop
see
that
you. Yeah, there you go. All right. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Take care. Adios. Hasta la vista. Ciao.